One of the things I've learned in this life is that people always want to have their way or detect whatever they want to happen in your own life. But the moment you try to do the same thing or return the same energy, it becomes a problem for those same people. Well, I'm quite sad. My story is very heartbreaking, but I'll share it anyways. I remember that I was only 13 years old when I met Sarah. She and her family moved into our neighborhood, the house next to ours. It was in the process of going over to welcome Sarah and her family to the neighborhood that Sarah and I connected oh so well, and from there we became good friends. Little did I know that Sarah and I would end up becoming best friends until our adulthood. The best part was when Sarah's parents enrolled Sarah in the same high school I attended. This made bonding so much easier for us. Aside from connecting so easily, one of the things Sarah and I had in common was that we had no sisters. We were both only daughters to our parents, except that I had an older brother, John, and Sarah were the only children of her parents. Like every other teenage best friend, Sarah and I did almost everything together. We would have several sleepovers, go to concerts, and even wear matching outfits. It even got to the point where we both knew that we had two homes and we could choose to sleep wherever we wanted without so much questioning from our parents. Our closeness continued like this until we became adults. And if anyone had told me that Sarah would ruin all the years of friendships because of something that should have been handled differently, I wouldn't have believed them. I'm taking time to share these little details so you'll understand that Sarah and I were literally like sisters. We were so close and we loved each other, and personally I love Sarah a lot. And because of how much I loved her, I would always do things to make her seem happy. All through the years of our friendship, Sarah and I barely had any issues. I know it sounds impossible for two friends from different walks of life to be together without fighting or even a disagreement. Well, that's because I've always did my best to avoid quarrels or anything that would lead to fights. I'm not somebody who really loves fighting and arguments, and I just wanted the relationship between Sarah and me to always be smooth. On the other hand, Sarah was the more outspoken and hot-headed person, and now that I sit and recall everything that had happened in the past, I think Sarah had been taking advantage of me without my knowledge. There were so many things Sarah did to me that I should have complained about, but I never did because I always shrugged them off as it's, quote, not a big deal. See, when Sarah and I were 17, I noticed that she's been crushing on my older brother, John, but every time I asked her about it, she would just straight up deny it. That's right. Without even admitting that she liked my brother, and I just knew that Sarah liked him because of her body language and the way that she always acted whenever he was around, but hey, I never pushed it. Then one day, Sarah came to me to tell me that she flirted with my brother and they kissed. I know I'm not supposed to be mad that Sarah flirted with my brother, but I just felt that she had crossed her boundary. Back then, around the same time Sarah flirted with John, I knew Sarah to be a serial flirt, and I knew all the guys she flirted with, both the ones in school and the ones who lived in our neighborhood. But instead of reacting to that or kicking against the idea of Sarah flirting with John, I didn't say anything. Well, thank gosh I didn't. Because as time passed, I watched as Sarah and my brother got so close to the point that they started dating, and our parents knew about it. By the time Sarah's family and my family had gotten really close, and we would all travel together, go on picnics together, and just do stuff together. As a protective sister, it took me a while to realize that Sarah actually loved my brother, and my brother loved Sarah too. At first, I believed that they were both having fun with each other, but upon realizing that they loved each other, I became relaxed and wished for them to get married because it would even make our family bond and connection stronger. Speaking of marriage, as teenage girls, me and Sarah's dreams were always to get married in the same year, but during my college years I met a man, and we dated for 2 years before he proposed to me. The proposal came a year after I got graduated from college, and when I broke the news to Sarah, she did not seem very happy to hear it. Well, I was getting married before her? I could tell from her blank reactions and constant, "Are you sure you really want to go through with this?" Meanwhile, by the time Sarah was still dating John and their relationship was on and off, kind of, one month you would hear they were dating, and the next month you'd hear that they're not even together. It continued like that for years, and the worst part was that Sarah never wanted to talk about her relationship with John. She would completely shut me out whenever I mentioned John. I don't know if she did that because I was John's sister or because she didn't want to talk about it simply. Well, shortly after I broke the news to Sarah, we started planning the wedding, and she accepted to be my maid of honor. A day before the wedding, we had a bridal shower, and it was from that evening that I noticed Sarah was in really high spirits. At first, I thought she acted that way because she was, excited about the wedding, but on my wedding day, I realized why she had been so happy. So get this. At the wedding reception, Sarah was called to make a toast for me, and immediately after she made the toast, she told us that she had a really important announcement to make. Without any hesitation, Sarah shared that she and John were getting engaged, and I was so happy for them. Since both Sarah's family and my family were present at the wedding, everyone, including our parents, was thrilled to hear the news. I didn't even know that John would use the opportunity to engage Sarah in everyone's presence. Because as soon as Sarah made that announcement, John gets up from his seat and proposed right then and there. Maybe it was something they planned, I still have no idea, and I really don't care. Well, that day, we ended up celebrating Sarah's engagement to John and my wedding. As John's sister and Sarah's best friend, believe me, I was very excited and happy for them. I even loved it that Sarah did not tell me about the engagement earlier. If not, it would have ruined the surprise. In the months that followed, Sarah and I planned her wedding, and exactly a year and 2 months after Sarah's engagement to John, they fixed a wedding date. Around that time, I found out that I was, pregnant. And instead of breaking the news to family and friends, I thought of sharing it in a grand way. My plan was to tell everyone on Sarah's wedding day, after giving her a toast, just as she had announced her engagement to John on my wedding day. I was really excited about the plan. So, my husband and I talked about it, and he said it was okay. What I did not know was that telling everyone I was pregnant at Sarah's reception would ruin our years of friendship. So it happened that while we were having fun at the reception, I was called to give Sarah a toast, just as we planned. So after giving the toast, I used the opportunity to tell everyone, which were mostly our friends and family, that I was pregnant. And immediately I did. Everyone gasped and began to show me love, and lots of affection. My mom, Sarah's mom, and my friends were the happiest, and they kept touching my stomach and hugging me over and over. I should have suspected that something was wrong when Sarah did not say something or come to hug me as I expected. She just sat there staring at all of us, and the next minute she grabbed the microphone and yelled into it. When she yelled in the microphone, we were so shocked and confused, and I didn't even understand why she acted that way. I didn't know that my pregnancy announcement infuriated her, and because of that, Sarah embarrassed me in a way that I will never forget. She started by calling me degrading names and saying that she knew that I had always wanted to steal her sunshine. Her words exactly were, "I knew you'd always wanted to shine, and that's why you ruined my wedding with your stupid pregnancy announcement." From the tone she spoke, it was obvious that she was irate. Her family was very surprised, and they tried to get her to calm down, but the more that they tried to do that, the more she showered me with abuse. She even mentioned something about me always thinking that I was better than her. She called me a selfish, self-centered brat. And then she said so many hurtful things that I would never expect her to say in a million years. While she said all these things, I just stood there in shock and did not even know what to say to her. I didn't even know how to react, man. I do remember her mom yelling at her to stop talking, but she ignored her mother and continued to speak. The most heartbreaking part was that John, my older brother, who's also Sarah's husband, did not say anything or try to stop her. He just sat and watched as Sarah poured out her mind. Sincerely, the way things turned out at Sarah's wedding was not what I had in mind. I expected that Sarah would celebrate with me, just as I celebrated with her when she announced her engagement to John at my wedding reception. Instead, she flared up and embarrassed me, then accused me of ruining her wedding? Well, guys, to cut a long story short, my husband and I ended up leaving the reception because we had no reason to stay. It's been exactly a week now since the whole incident went down, and I won't lie, I feel so horrible about it. I can't really say why Sarah reacted that way. She was in a great mood when I was giving her a toast, but she suddenly switched up. I've been trying to get a hold of her and my brother for days now, and I mean days. But they're not taking my calls or responding to my messages even. The crazy part is that I can't get her words out of my head. Believe me, guys, if I knew Sarah would not be comfortable with me sharing my pregnancy news at her wedding, I swear I would not have done it. I believe that since she announced her engagement to John, and John proposed to her at my wedding reception without any of them asking for my permission, I could also do the same without giving them any heads up. I sincerely thought that Sarah would be thrilled to know that she was finally becoming a godmom, just as we had talked about. My husband has told me to let it go, and he's pretty mad at Sarah for reacting the way she did. But no matter how hard I tried to act like my best friend of 15 years did not just embarrass me and call me selfish, I just can't. At this point, I want to know, am I the a-hole for announcing my pregnancy at Sarah's wedding reception? She announced her engagement to John at my wedding reception, and I thought that I could do the same thing. I look forward to your comments. Please help me out at this. It's really bothering me. Also, if you have any suggestions that can help me, please don't hesitate to share them. Thank you. Update number 1. Hey guys, thank you so much for your comments and suggestions. So it's been 2 weeks, and I apologize for not making an update earlier. I've read the good, bad, and the ugly comments, and honestly, I don't expect anyone to understand me. I've mentioned several times that I did what I did because I thought Sarah would be cool with it. I didn't do it because I wanted to ruin my best friend's wedding or be the center of attention. Anyways, that aside, after trying to reach out to Sarah and John for weeks, I took the advice one of you shared here and decided to get my family involved. My parents reached out to John, and after coming up with a different excuse, he finally agreed to come to a family meeting. My parents were fully aware of what had happened. They expected John to do something about me and Sarah's sour friendship after the wedding. When John came to our parents' house that day, it was obvious that he was avoiding me. He didn't make eye contact or anything, and he just avoided me. When we were finally given the floor to voice our reactions for acting that way, I shared mine, and everyone understood why I acted that way. I even apologized to John in case I had hurt his feelings. With all I had said, I expected that John would apologize on behalf of Sarah and try to bury the hatchet, but no, he ended up yelling at me. You see, he said that I was being manipulative and called me an absolute liar. Then he just went on and on with this rant, yelling at me about how I'd always wanted to destroy his relationship with Sarah, and I was angry that Sarah and him were finally married. To be honest, I could not believe that all of that came from John's mouth. It was almost like I was dreaming. Even my husband and parents were surprised at his words, and when my dad could not take it anymore, he told John that he's had enough of his drama and told John to take responsibility and just apologize on behalf of his wife. It turned out that I wasn't the only one who was embarrassed that day. My parents were embarrassed. They had invited friends, and it was such a terrible experience. Guess what? The moment my father said so, John flared up and yelled at my dad. He said he would never apologize because his wife did nothing wrong. And if there was anyone who needs to apologize, it has to be selfish Judy. Then with that, he got up and walked out. My parents called him over and over and over, but he refused to come back. Later that evening, my mom called to tell me that John texted them, that it would not accept Sarah as his wife, then he was going to cut them off from the whole family. That didn't make any sense because Sarah's been part of the family since we were kids, so we didn't really understand what he was referring to. Little did we know that John had said that because of the thing that happened at the wedding, and he believed that our family was against him and Sarah. It's been an absolute mess since the wedding, and now I can't believe that I have not only lost a friend, but also a brother. Anyways, that's it, guys. I'll make another update as soon as I can. Update number 2. Hey guys, well, thank you so much for the warm comments. I do apologize. I know it's been a while since I've made an update. So, a lot of things have happened in the past few weeks, and right now it's official that John has been cut out from our family. So after John and the family meeting thing, later that week I spoke to me and Sarah's mutual friend, and she suggested that I go to Sarah's house and try to talk to her. Believe me, guys, I've tried to. I tried too hard to act like I'm not bothered about everything that's been happening, but I am. 3 weeks ago, I took my friend's advice and decided to drop by Sarah's house. Unannounced. I knew she and John were home because their cars were parked in the driveway. I don't know how, but Sarah must have seen me through the window as I walked towards the door, and before I could even get to the door, she came out of the house and started screaming. She said that she could not believe I had the audacity to come to her home after what I did at the wedding. And then she said so many nasty things. In all our years of friendship, that was the second time I saw Sarah be so angry. The first was at her wedding. I tried to explain to her that I had sent her multiple messages on Facebook and Instagram, and I even sent text messages and called several times and left a dozen voicemails, but I did not get a single response. Well, when I said that, she got even more infuriated, and her voice became louder. It was so loud that her neighbors came outside to see what was happening. All of this while, John was in the house, and he only came out when Sarah's voice got really loud. As soon as John came outside, he pulled Sarah to the side and asked me to get off the property, or he would call the police. He was seriously angry, and I knew that if I did not leave immediately, he would call the police on me. As I was about to leave, Sarah tells me that she never wants to see me again and that I wasn't welcome. Guys, it was really heartbreaking to hear. But it made my heart strong when I got home because I ensured that I blocked Sarah on all our mutual social media platforms, and I blocked John as well. As it is now, when I give birth, they will not be a part of the baby's little life for any reason because I don't want such toxic people around my children. Ugh. Somehow I'm glad Sarah showed this side of her I never even knew existed. So now I know who she truly is. I even forgot to mention that Sarah called me out on Facebook after I went to her home, but I didn't see it because I blocked her. It was when our mutual friends kept calling me to ask if Sarah's was still beefing that I realized what she had done. They showed me the post of that nasty things that she said about me, and I couldn't help but just let out a laughter. Right now, I've had enough drama, and I don't need any more. That's everything for now. If anything comes up, I'll make another update in the future. Final updates. Hey guys, some of you probably forgot about me because it's been more than a year since I've made my last update. Sorry I didn't keep you guys in the loop. Some months ago, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and I'm happy to announce that I'm now a mom. My apologies if I'm drifting away from the main reason for this update. I just thought I would let you guys know. Now, the reason for this update is Sarah and John. You guys remember that I mentioned in my last update that I cut all contact with Sarah and John, and even when I gave birth, no one informed them. So, John also cut off from the family and went completely solo on us. Despite every attempt from my parents to make things right, John just deliberately shut us out and refused to speak to anyone after he walked out of the family meeting. Well, after months of trying, my parents finally decided to let him be, and we moved on with our lives. Now to the main tea. Early last week, I was in my house when my parents called to inform me that John had showed up at their house. He didn't tell anyone he was coming, he just shows up. Also, they claimed he looked pretty miserable, and upon talking to them, they disclosed that he was in the process of divorcing Sarah. They'd barely been married a year, and divorce? Well, that's funny. That came as a major shock for all of us, and we could not even believe it. According to John, Sarah was not who he thought she was, and he realized that he could not spend the rest of his life with someone like her. So, when things didn't work with Sarah, John decided to pay her a visit. How convenient for him. Maybe John was thinking that my parents would welcome and accept him back like open arms, like the prodigal son. But my parents did not. After his little pity story, they asked him to leave and go take care of this mess. LOL. As for Sarah, so 3 days ago, I was at home with my baby when I heard the doorbell ring, and when I opened up the door, I was shocked to see Sarah right there standing in front of me. She was in terrible shape and even had some bags with her. As soon as I opened the door, Sarah went on her knees and began to beg me. She cried, can you believe it? The almighty Sarah? She said that she was sorry for all the things that she said to me and how she reacted. Then she hit me with the wrecking ball. Sarah admitted she's always been jealous of me, and so when I announced at her wedding I was pregnant, she could not control her anger and had to lash out at me. In her words, I didn't expect you to get pregnant so soon. To be sure she wasn't holding anything back, I allowed her to do the talking, and after she was done with her crocodile tears and pleas for forgiveness, she told me that she was going through a very rough time with John, and she didn't have a place to stay. I looked at her and laughed heartedly. Then I told her that I never wanted to see her again, that if she didn't get off my property, I would call the police on her. It was really brave of her to think I would let her stay in my house after everything that she did. Well, guess what, guys? As soon as I said that, Sarah flipped and began to yell at me. I wasn't having it. I just put my baby to sleep, and I wasn't going to let her ruin my hard work, so I called the police on her straight up. And as soon as she heard me, she packed up her bags and left. I'm pretty sure she won't dare show her ugly face at my house again. To be honest, I never wanted to see Sarah. You can all judge me for being a horrible person if you want, but this is my decision. See, she caused me so much pain, yet she thought she could just waltz back in my life like it didn't happen? Well, as for John, our relationship can never go back to what it used to be. It's even a good thing that he's not trying to come over, because if he does, well, I'll do the same thing I just did to Sarah in a heartbeat. What do you guys think? Did I go too far by not accepting her again? Let me know.